Welcome to this week's episode of Biz Success in 15, where top experts share hot tips and strategies that you can implement in as little as 15 minutes to build your dream business. And now here's your host, the Visibility Whiz, Cindy J.
Hi, I'm Cindy J, the Visibility Whiz, and welcome to this episode of Biz Success in 15, where top experts share hot tips and strategies that you can implement in 15 minutes or less to build your business. Today our guest is Ann Gordon, and she has been running her whale and dolphin wisdom retreat since 2007. She pioneered the whale watching industry in the country of Panama and runs her signature retreats there every July through October. She also runs retreats in Mexico, Hawaii, Bimini, San Juan Island, Washington State, and the Dominican Republic. Ann loves to support coaches, transformational leaders, and experts by providing the ultimate done-for-you retreat experience for them and their clients. Welcome, Ann. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Cindy J. It's a real pleasure and honor to be here today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to talk about whales and dolphins. I think it's so cool what you do. But before we get there, can you share a personal or business challenge that you had to overcome in order to achieve your level of success?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge, well, there's two really, is that living outside of the U.S., North America, living in Panama, which is, it's a Latin American country, and they're used to doing things the way they do things. And when I first got down there, I've always wanted to spend time with dolphins and whales, and I'm in a country with two oceans 50 miles apart, and I couldn't find any information about them. So when I found the whales and found out how easy it was to find them, that really, there was nobody doing it at all. So pioneering a whole industry in a country that didn't even know they had whales was a huge challenge. You know, it was a big uphill battle.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, that was a tough one. And then on top of that, I think the biggest challenge for probably most everybody is mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Is that you can learn all the techniques and strategies in the world, but if you don't believe in yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and you have these limiting beliefs, many of which we don't even realize we have until we uncover them.
Right.
But just the willingness to be able to look and find them and search for them and be open to whatever comes up, no matter how not pretty it is. Those have been two of my biggest challenges, and I'm still learning. It truly is the onion peeling layer after layer after layer.
Yes.
of realizations, aha moments, and belief in myself.
And I love the word willingness. You have to be willing to look at them. I love that you use that word. And I completely agree with the onions. I believe that no layer is going to appear itself to you until you're ready to work with it. And because you're willing to look for them, I think we work through them a lot faster that way. And I was just speaking with a client the other day, and I said, all of those layers are never going to be peeled. So give up thinking you're ever going to end it, because regardless what it is, for some reason at some time, something just might pop up and you're like, wow, I thought that I dealt with that 10 years ago, and here's this other aspect of it.
Exactly. There's always more and more revealing itself. And just when you think you've got it all handled is like whammo when something else comes and finds you.
Yes. And I'm sure that a lot of that even played whenever you started the whale and dolphin retreats, being the pioneer there, like you said, to a country that didn't even realize they had whales. A lot of these people probably thought you were totally out of your mind. So besides fighting your own gremlins in your mind, you probably had some backlash, like, what are you doing, woman?
Yeah, and being a white American woman in a Latin American country didn't help, because nobody likes a foreigner coming in and telling them something about their own country.
Exactly.
So there's all of that, and just trying to educate the locals as well as any possible tourist that's coming to Panama that whale watching is an amazing thing to do and so easy. We actually have a
Exactly.
99% success rate. But if they don't even know we have whales, they're not even going to look for it.
Exactly. Exactly. And so what is a whale and dolphin wisdom retreat?
Well, when I started doing the day tours, that was fun, spending a day out on the water with tourists and locals. But for me, I love, excuse the metaphor, diving deep into the wisdom and the spirituality of the dolphins and whales. And what do I mean? Whale and dolphin wisdom, what I mean by that is what we can learn from them. So for example, when you're in the presence of a dolphin or a whale, if there's a dolphin riding in the front of your boat or a whale out in front, brings you right into that present moment. It is impossible to think about anything else, right? You can't think about the bills on your desk and the project you've got to do next week, the deadline. You're just right there. And that's such a huge gift to us humans because we are always living in the past and the future and not right now. And then the dolphins teach us all about going with the flow. And what I like to say is easily surfing through challenges. Because when it gets stormy out in the ocean, the whales and the dolphins don't try and avoid the storm. In fact, they start playing harder and jumping higher. And so they'll use the force of this storm to carry them further and go with the storm instead of against it and resisting the challenge that we humans always do.
Right. I love that. I never knew that. So definitely go with the flow and ride with the challenge and don't resist it.
Don't resist, dive in.
Yes. And are there any other lessons that we can learn from the dolphins and whales?
Oh my gosh, I could go on for days. So whales represent abundance. They're the largest animals on Earth. They eat the smallest. And you never see a skinny whale, right?
Right.
And so there's always enough. We humans put this block of limiting beliefs in front of abundance.
Yes.
But with the whales, they never struggle, they never worry, and they actually create their own abundance. Because science has proven that when there are more whales eating fish, there's actually larger fish populations, not less. Now, how that happens, it's interesting. It's the opposite of what you would logically think. But what happens is that when a whale is eating, what happens next? Whales poop. And when they poop, they're pooping out nutrients that then feed the plankton, that then feed the krill, that feed the fish, and so on up the chain. So the more whales, the more nutrients, the more food there is for everybody.
And you just said, I think, a key word there. You said logic. Logically, you would think the opposite. And I think even as people, logically, whenever we think logically, we're actually blocking our own abundance because we have to think illogical, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, exactly. We have to step out of what we've all been taught and what we've all learned, all these things like money doesn't grow on trees, you have to struggle to have success, all of those things, and just move into, because it's not just whales. Everything in nature, except humans, they don't struggle. For the lions, there's zebra and wildebeest everywhere. For birds, they're flying around and there's seeds and berries and insects, worms, everything is there that they need. It's just these beliefs that stop us from stepping into the natural flow of abundance.
Yes. And interestingly, I don't know why or how I found this video about ants. And you have a colony of ants, and each ant has its own job. So if somebody comes along and kills, say, job A, then the other ants, they start realizing that nobody's doing job A, so they'll naturally start doing it. So then they automatically repopulate so that they always have the right number of workers per job in the ant colony. I found that pretty fascinating. And it goes along with the abundance. There's always enough, and these ants just naturally see where something's lacking, they jump into it. And I think that would be great if we as business owners had that same insight.
Absolutely. And it goes also to how the dolphins live in unity community. They live in this true community, working together, supporting each other without losing their uniqueness. They honor the uniqueness of each individual, yet everybody has a vital role to play that is equally valuable.
Now, whales and dolphins, you do both of them. And so we've been talking a lot about like the similarities, but what are some of the differences between whales and dolphins?
Well, obviously size, that's the most obvious, but the dolphins are, as a whole, they represent joy and play. You can't help but smile when you see a dolphin, right? Even on a video or a photo, you feel good when you see them. Whales hit people in a whole different way. It's more like there's just awe. They're a little harder to understand because they're just so immense. Some of them are the size of a school bus or bigger.
Right.
And yet there's something really amazing about how something so big can move so effortlessly and with such grace in the ocean and survive. Now, they've all been here about 30 million years, whereas us humans have been here about 250,000 years. So I always like to think that they think of us like toddlers, because we're just trying to figure this place out and how to live, whereas they've been living in harmony and in balance with nature for millions of years.
Right.
And we're just bumbling along, making a whole lot of mistakes. But what's amazing is that even when dolphins and whales are hunted, they don't fight back.
Oh, they don't?
They don't. They accept it because they're not as tied into their physical bodies as we are. And they're much more conscious of their role on earth and their soul or their spirit and touching into that. So I think they do they really forgive us humans for the atrocities we as a race, as a species, have inflicted upon them. And like I said, there's just learning that little bit about how to be in grace and how to be in compassion, even if we don't understand the actions that is happening around us.
Wow, that's really amazing. And now you lead the retreats. So what got you started with leading the retreats, and what's the value of leading a retreat like as a coach for your clients or for your team?
For me, it was all about wanting to really bring in these lessons to the people that I bring out on the retreats, and to help teach them so that they can bring them back into their lives, to bring more joy, to bring more play, to reconnect with nature, to be in the present moment, all of those bits of wisdom that so many of us are lacking. And in today's world, we're so disconnected. It's crazy.
You know, I mean, whales represent abundance, dolphins represent joy. And isn't that what we all want in our life, abundance and joy?
And an abundance of joy. We want absolutely, we want it all. And abundance doesn't necessarily, we all think of it as money, but it doesn't necessarily have to mean money. It can mean abundance of joy, abundance of love, abundance of, whatever we all desire in life.
I completely agree with you.
And so to answer the second part of your question is the value of a retreat for if you're a coach or a healer or a transformational leader, and you've been thinking about leading retreats, or maybe you've never even thought about it. But a retreat is an amazing way to really go deep with your clients. It's one thing to do coaching one-on-one or even group coaching, and they have their value. Mm-hmm. But what all your clients want is more of you. And on a retreat, you can be with your clients, but you can let your guard down a little bit and be real and play alongside of them, as opposed to you always being on the pedestal. You're still going to be teaching, you're still going to be giving your brilliance, but you can play and do activities and tours and eat meals together so that you really build this beautiful connection with your clients. Really build that sense of community so they get to see you on this whole new level instead of always being professional. Now, the other amazing value of the retreat is that when you are on a retreat, it can be pure magic, because the retreat, you're going to give some content, and then you're going to pick activities and tours, even your location and your venue, whether it's a hotel or a retreat center or rent a big home, that all align with your message for your retreat, the goal, the promise of your retreat. And so in that, you're also going to build in free space, free time. It's not like one of these 3-day events where it's content. You're going to design it so that everything adds to your message. And then you give them some free time as well. And that's where the magic happens. When they have time to journal, when they have time to process, when they have time to think on their own and just process, or even dialoguing, having conversations with the other participants, is when those major aha moments pop in.
Mm-hmm. And a lot of, and the personal growth. I know when I've been to retreats that have that free time, that's where it's like you're free for that personal growth because your mind's not absorbing all the information constantly.
Yeah, it's not, you go into some of these 3-day events, these workshops, and it's great content, but you come away, you're like filled up way above your head. You're overfilled, you're overwhelmed with all the information. Whereas on a retreat, you're given time to assimilate and experience the lesson, not just put it all intake.
Absolutely love that. That's like great. Can you share some transformational stories from some of your retreat clients?
Yeah, absolutely. The fun part for me is with the whales and dolphins, I don't have to do hardly anything. I just have to show and talk about them and share the wisdom, which I can do really informally while we're on the boat. So, but the whales and the dolphins do the real work. I found that just by being immersed in their energy gently releases anything that no longer serves. For example, I had a woman on one retreat and with the whales and the dolphins, and she came from corporate and she just came for the whales and dolphins. She didn't come for any transformation. She wasn't looking for any benefit, just a fun trip. And on the trip, the whales touched her so deeply and awakened something in her she didn't even know she had. And she went back home and she started writing. And she wrote this really beautiful, fun novel it's mainly for young teens. And now apparently a lot of women are really enjoying this book. And now she's written the second installment of it. And she's this whole project, this whole series of books just popped out just because she came on this retreat.
Right. That's a lovely story.
So another amazing transformation is that we had a woman on one of my retreats, and she came as a friend of a friend. I had never met her. I knew nothing about her. And we had an amazing time. It was on my gray whale retreat in Mexico. And it was so much fun. And on the last day of the retreat, we had our little sharing circle, and we went around and everybody talked about what they got out of the retreat and what they were going home with. And she shared that her husband had died 7 years prior, and his death was in a car accident, and she was like 3 cars back and watched the whole thing happen, and the car burst into flames, and she watched as her husband and the family dog were killed. And I can't even imagine the horror of that.
Right.
And so on the last day of this retreat, she shared with us that for the first time in 7 years, she felt happy.
Yeah.
And that's the power of retreats.
Yes. It's great stories, great stories. I love them. And, you know, a lot of people probably think, okay, well, this is great, but a retreat, you know, is really hard to put together. So how hard is it really to lead one?
It's not that hard, but it's definitely some work. I don't want to say you can do it easy peasy, because there is a lot to learn about it. You have to line up, as I mentioned, everything has to be in alignment with your message. You've got to know about choosing the right location that's going to appeal to your clients, the venue, the tours, the activities. Do you need a team? How much, build the schedule to find the right balance in your schedule between content, tours, activities. Do you include the meals? Do you not? All of these things go into it. And then the hard part, once you've got all of that planned, you've got to fill it. You've got to promote it. You've got to market it. You've got to fill it. And you've got to create your budget and a price that you're going to make some money and your clients are going to be willing to pay. Finding that sweet spot in the price.
Right.
And then the leading of it, you've got to get yourself to a place where you're leading it out of joy and from a place of calm and being of service, and not stressed out by the details. If something goes wrong, how to be in the flow, how to adjust, having a sense of adventure. So there's a lot to it, which is why I started teaching what I have learned in my 12 years of leading retreats. I've started sharing that with people who want to lead their own retreat so that they can benefit from everything I have learned in all my experience.
Right. And I think, you know, it's like with anything, if you're planning a party or if you're planning a wedding, you know, there is some planning to it, but there's also a lot of help out there available that can help you make sure that you have all of the dots or all of the check boxes checked off.
Correct. Yeah. Correct.
And what's the benefit of leading a retreat to both the retreat leader and to your clients?
Again, for the retreat leader, it can be really all about building community, really being able to go on a deep dive with your clients in a really fun, relaxed, enjoyable way. And you get paid for it. And you get to go on these really fun locations, maybe places you've never been before but have always wanted to go. And now you get to go with your favorite clients and earn some money at the same time. So it's really a fun thing to do. And I found that almost everybody who comes on my retreats are the kind of people I could be best friends with. So I've really enjoyed getting to know my clients as much as they've gotten to know who I am.
And I always think that's important. You always want to work with your ideal clients because that's always the win-win-win for everyone.
Exactly. And the benefit to the clients is they get really intimate time with you, because a retreat rarely has more than, say, 12 to 15 people maximum. And so they get some really fun playtime with you, informal time. And they don't even know the benefits until they go home, like my woman who found joy and happiness again in her life after
Right.
such a tragic thing that happened, loss in her life. So there can be so many benefits and the aha moments. It's really just a really fun way to transform and up level their lives.
I absolutely love it. Thank you, Anne. And Anne, can you please share a strategy that our listeners can implement in 15 minutes or less to build their business?
I think the best thing to do, one is just that you've got to get yourself out there. Just don't worry, don't hide. It's so easy to be the solopreneur behind yourself, behind the screen at home. Just put yourself out there in the Facebook Lives and your Facebook group. Just get yourself out there, get some speaking gigs, just share. And even if it's just one post a week minimum on Facebook, social media, and create some really fun free reports that you can give away that are real value to people. And I've had a lot of fun creating mine using Canva and just playing around with it. And it's something that you can feel really, really good about, and you can just easily share. And that's a great way to build visibility and credibility at the same time.
Exactly. Thank you. I love it. And Anne, I know you have a wonderful gift for our listeners. Can you share what it is?
Yes, speaking of free reports, I've created a Create Your Dream Retreat planning guide. So it's a really fun a report. It's not just, one page. It's 14 pages of information going through everything you need to be aware of when you are planning your retreat. So I'm happy to share that with everyone.
That's a wonderful gift. Thank you. And as we were saying earlier about how hard it is, with this helps you check off the boxes with what you need to accomplish before you actually go on the retreat. So during the retreat, you're just as relaxed and can really engage with your clients. So I love that. And you want to head on over to bizsuccessin15.com/Anne. That's all lowercase, and Anne is spelled ANNE. So bizsuccessin15.com/Anne, ANNE, and grab your own Ultimate Retreat Leaders Planning Guide. And Anne, do you have any parting words?
Just go out there, have fun, and don't be afraid about leading a retreat. They're really fun. It can be super simple. It can be, an hour outside of your city. It doesn't have to be some exotic location. It can be, a week long. It can be just a day-long retreat or a weekend. So just have fun. It can even be an afternoon retreat, just something really fun for your clients. And you will be so happy you did, because it's such a transformational tool that you can add to your business model.
Love it. Thank you very much. And thank you for being my guest today, Anne. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. It's been really fun to share, and I hope your listeners enjoy it.
Yes, I'm sure they will. Gosh, whales and dolphins, so interesting. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed today's show, feel free to share it with your friends. And you want to visit bizsuccess15.com/Anne, and you'll be able to listen to Anne's words of wisdom, catch any of those golden nuggets that you might have missed. And you can also catch up on any past episodes. But above all, while you're there, you want to be sure to grab your own Ultimate Retreat Leaders Planning Guide. So I hope you have a great week. Be sure to tune in next week with another amazing guest. Big hugs. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to Biz Success in 15. For all links mentioned in today's show and to watch or listen to previous episodes, visit bizsuccessin15.com. Thanks so much for listening, and be sure to tune in next week for another amazing guest.